The baby's cry echoed through Ellen's studio, but this wasn't planned entertainment. What started as her regular Wednesday taping was about to become the most extraordinary story of unexpected motherhood and sacrificial love that television had ever witnessed. 19-year-old Jessica Martinez sat nervously in the front row, her college backpack at her feet and her hands fidgeting with a worn baby bottle that had seen countless feedings. Behind her concerned expression lay a secret that had consumed her life for the past 8 months, transforming her from a carefree student into someone carrying responsibilities no teenager should bear. Beside her sat her roommate, Katie Chen, who had written to Ellen's producers with a story so incredible they initially thought it was fiction or an elaborate hoax. She'd been watching Jessica's mysterious behavior for months before discovering the truth that would change both their lives forever. Ellen was finishing her opening monologue when she noticed Jessica in the audience, immediately drawn to the young woman's obvious anxiety and the baby supplies visible in her bag. "I see we have a college student in our audience today," Ellen said, approaching their section. Jessica's face flushed with nervousness as Ellen's attention focused on her, knowing that her carefully guarded secret was about to be exposed to millions of viewers. "Hi, Ellen. I'm Jessica from Phoenix State University." Ellen sensed there was much more to this story than a simple college visit, especially given the urgency in the producer's note about this particular audience member and her unusual circumstances. "Jessica, your roommate Katie wrote to us about something pretty extraordinary." Katie squeezed Jessica's hand supportively, knowing how difficult this moment would be for her friend, who had been carrying this burden alone for so many months. "Jessica, should I tell Ellen what I discovered?" Jessica took a deep breath, realizing that the secret she'd been protecting was about to become public knowledge and potentially change everything. "I guess it's time people knew the truth." Ellen knelt down beside Jessica's seat, sensing that whatever was about to be revealed would require sensitivity and compassion rather than entertainment. "Jessica, what truth have you been keeping?" 8 months ago, I found a baby in the hospital bathroom where I work part-time as a custodial assistant. Jessica began, her voice trembling slightly. She was maybe 2 days old, wrapped in a towel, and she was crying. Ellen's expression immediately shifted as she processed the gravity of what Jessica was telling her and the impossible situation this young woman had faced alone. "You found an abandoned baby?" Jessica nodded, tears beginning to form in her eyes as she relived that life-changing moment that had altered her entire world. "I was cleaning the restrooms during my late shift when I heard crying coming from one of the stalls. The sound was so faint at first that I thought I was imagining it," Jessica continued, her voice growing stronger as she spoke about that pivotal moment. "But when I opened the stall door, there she was, wrapped in a hospital towel with her umbilical cord still attached." "What did you do?" Ellen asked gently, though she suspected the answer would be both heartbreaking and extraordinary, given Jessica's presence here today. "I picked her up," Jessica replied simply, as if there had been no other choice available to her. "She was so tiny and helpless, and she stopped crying when I held her," Jessica continued, her voice gaining strength as she described the instant connection. "I knew I should call security immediately, but something in my heart told me to protect her first." Ellen felt her emotions stirring as she realized this teenager had made an impossible decision in a moment of crisis that would define both their lives. "Jessica, did you report finding the baby?" Jessica's expression became pained as she prepared to admit to months of deception and potentially illegal behavior that could have serious consequences. "I tried to, but when I went to the nurses' station, I overheard them talking about how overcrowded the foster system was. They were saying that newborns often get lost in the system, and some never find permanent homes or stable families," Jessica explained, her voice breaking slightly. "I couldn't let that happen to her after what I'd experienced myself." Ellen sat down on the floor beside Jessica, abandoning all television protocol for this extraordinary confession that was unfolding before millions of viewers. "So what did you do instead?" "I took her home," Jessica admitted, the weight of her decision evident in her voice and the months of secrecy that followed. "I told my roommate I was babysitting for a professor, and I've been taking care of her ever since." Katie spoke up, adding context to Jessica's incredible story of deception and dedication, that she'd witnessed firsthand for months. Ellen, Jessica has been hiding this baby for 8 months while going to school full-time and working 2 part-time jobs. I didn't know the truth until I came home early one day and found Jessica changing a diaper, Katie explained, revealing how the secret was finally discovered. When I confronted her, she broke down and told me everything, including how she'd been struggling financially to care for the baby. Ellen's mind raced as she tried to comprehend the magnitude of what this young woman had undertaken without any support system. Jessica, how have you been managing to care for a baby while being a full-time student? I bring her to my early morning classes in a car seat carrier that I bought secondhand, Jessica explained, demonstrating the complex logistics she developed. Most professors think she's a professor's baby I'm watching, and she's usually sleeping anyway during lectures. During my afternoon classes, I leave her with Mrs. Rodriguez next door, who thinks she's my cousin's baby visiting from Mexico, Jessica continued, revealing the web of half-truths she'd created. And I work my evening shifts at the hospital after she's asleep, usually from midnight to 6 a.m. Ellen was amazed by the level of planning and dedication required to maintain this secret life while pursuing her education. Jessica, this must be incredibly expensive and exhausting for someone your age. I spend almost everything I earn on formula, diapers, and baby supplies, Jessica admitted, her financial struggles evident in her worn clothing. I've been eating ramen noodles for dinner most nights, so I can afford everything she needs for proper nutrition and care. Katie added more details about Jessica's sacrifices that demonstrated the depth of her commitment to this child she'd found. Jessica sold her textbooks, her laptop, even her winter clothes to buy baby equipment and medical supplies. She's been studying from library books and walking to school in the cold because she sold her coat to buy the baby a crib. Katie continued with obvious admiration for her roommate's dedication. I've never seen anyone sacrifice so much for something that wasn't even their responsibility. Ellen felt tears forming in her eyes as she understood the level of sacrifice this teenager had made for a child that wasn't even legally hers. Jessica, why didn't you go through proper adoption channels? Because I was afraid they'd take her away from me, Jessica replied with raw honesty that cut through any pretense. I know it sounds crazy, but from the moment I held her, I felt like she was meant to be mine. Besides, Jessica continued, her voice gaining conviction as she spoke about her deepest motivations. I know what it's like to be unwanted. I grew up in foster care myself, and I couldn't bear the thought of her going through what I did. Ellen's heart broke as she realized Jessica's own traumatic background had motivated her to save this baby from a similar fate of institutional care. You were in foster care? From age 6 to 18 after my parents died in a car accident, Jessica confirmed, her voice steady despite the painful memories. I aged out of the system with nothing, which is why I'm working so hard to get my degree and build a stable life. I was in 7 different homes, Jessica added, her voice carrying the weight of those difficult years. Some were good, some were terrible, but none of them ever felt like family. I didn't want her to experience that kind of uncertainty and rejection. Ellen stood up slowly, processing the incredible courage and determination this young woman had shown in impossible circumstances. Jessica, where is the baby now? She's with Mrs. Rodriguez, Jessica replied, glancing at her watch anxiously, as she always did during feeding times. I told her I'd be back by 3 o'clock for feeding time, and she gets worried if I'm late. Ellen walked to her desk, her mind racing with the legal, practical, and emotional implications of what she'd just learned about this extraordinary situation. Jessica, I need to make some phone calls. For the next several minutes, Ellen contacted family services, legal advocates, and her own foundation while the studio watched in fascination at this real-time intervention. Her conversations were urgent but careful, focusing on Jessica's and the baby's best interests rather than punishment for the deception. Jessica, Ellen announced after finishing her calls, I've spoken with some very good people who want to help you. Jessica's eyes widened with hope and fear about what Ellen's intervention might mean for her and the baby. First, we need to make your situation legal, Ellen explained, returning to Jessica's side with official-looking documents. I've arranged for you to meet with an attorney who specializes in emergency adoption cases and unusual family situations. The good news is that because you've been caring for her for 8 months and there's been no missing child report filed anywhere in the state, you have a strong case for adoption, Ellen continued. Jessica gasped audibly, hardly daring to believe that her secret could become legal reality. But Ellen, I don't have money for lawyers or adoption fees, Jessica protested, her practical concerns overriding her excitement about the possibility. I can barely afford baby formula, let alone legal representation. Ellen smiled, clearly enjoying her role as problem solver and dream maker for this deserving young woman who had sacrificed so much. All legal fees will be covered by my foundation. Additionally, Ellen continued, I'm establishing a college fund that will allow you to finish your degree while properly caring for your daughter. The word daughter made Jessica cry with joy and relief. The audience erupted in applause as they realized they were witnessing a legal adoption being facilitated in real time on national television. But I have one more surprise, Ellen said, gesturing toward the wings of the stage. Slowly, Mrs. Rodriguez walked onto the stage, carefully carrying a beautiful 8-month-old baby girl with dark hair and bright eyes that immediately searched for Jessica. Jessica immediately stood up, her face lighting up as she saw the child she'd been caring for and loving in secret. Everyone, I'd like you to meet baby Sophia, Ellen announced as Jessica took the baby into her arms with practiced ease. This is the little girl that Jessica has been protecting and loving for 8 months. The baby immediately settled into Jessica's arms, clearly recognizing her caregiver and responding to her familiar touch and scent. The bond between them was obvious to everyone watching, validating Jessica's claim that they belonged together. Ellen watched this reunion with tears in her eyes, witnessing the power of love that transcended biological relationships and legal definitions of family. Jessica, how does it feel to hold her without having to hide? Like I can finally breathe, Jessica replied, kissing the baby's forehead gently while Sophia grabbed her finger with tiny hands. I've been so afraid that someone would take her away from me. Ellen addressed the audience directly about what they were witnessing, recognizing the extraordinary nature of this situation and its implications. Ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing something incredible here, the power of love to create family in the most unexpected circumstances. She walked back to her desk and returned with more envelopes, clearly not finished with her surprises for Jessica and Sophia. Jessica, raising a child while finishing college will still be challenging. So I've arranged for you to have access to the university's child care program free of charge, Ellen announced, solving one of Jessica's major logistical problems. Sophia can be safely cared for while you attend classes. I've also arranged for you to receive monthly support for all of Sophia's needs, food, clothing, medical care, everything, Ellen continued. Jessica was overwhelmed by the comprehensive support being offered to ensure both her and Sophia's success. As the segment continued, Ellen learned more about Jessica's journey and the challenges she'd overcome to protect this child while maintaining her education. Her own experience in foster care had taught her the importance of stability and unconditional love. The most beautiful thing about this story, Ellen told the audience, is that Jessica chose love over convenience, sacrifice over self-interest. Katie added her perspective about watching her roommate's transformation from struggling student to devoted mother. Ellen arranged for Jessica to receive ongoing support through counseling services, parenting classes, and a network of other young mothers facing similar challenges. The comprehensive assistance would ensure both Jessica and Sophia could thrive together. But Ellen had one final surprise that would honor Jessica's sacrifice and create lasting change for others in similar situations. Jessica, your story has inspired me to create something permanent. She walked to her desk and returned with official documents that would formalize Jessica's impact beyond her personal situation and help other young people. The Jessica Martinez Guardian Angel Foundation will help other young people who find themselves caring for abandoned or at-risk children. Jessica was overwhelmed by the honor and the knowledge that her experience would help other young people in similar impossible situations find support and guidance. A foundation in my name? The foundation will provide legal, financial, and practical support for young adults who step up to protect vulnerable children, Ellen explained. Your courage will help others find the strength to do what's right. As the show reached its conclusion, Ellen reflected on what Jessica had taught everyone about responsibility, sacrifice, and love in the face of impossible circumstances. Jessica has shown us that family isn't just about biology, it's about choosing to love and protect someone when they need it most. Ellen's closing words that day became the Foundation's motto. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the decision to choose love over fear. Jessica's courage became an inspiration for young people facing impossible decisions. 6 months later, Jessica returned to Ellen's show with Sophia, now legally her adopted daughter, to share their progress and success story. Jessica was thriving in school while successfully parenting, and Sophia was a healthy, happy toddler. The most amazing thing, Jessica told Ellen during their return visit, is that I never imagined I could love someone so completely until I found her. Her transformation from frightened teenager to confident mother was remarkable to witness. The foundation Jessica had inspired grew to serve dozens of young people who found themselves in similar situations, providing the support and resources needed to keep families together. Her story opened conversations about the gaps in social services and the power of individual action. Ellen kept a photo from that first day on her desk, Jessica holding Sophia for the first time without fear, both of them smiling with pure joy. It served as a daily reminder that the most beautiful families are often created by choice, courage, and unconditional love. Because sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin in the most ordinary places, when someone decides that protecting an innocent life is worth any sacrifice. Jessica Martinez had proven that angels come in many forms, and sometimes they're 19-year-old college students with hearts big enough to save the world, one abandoned baby at a time.